Welcome once again to one more time. Cut that. Welcome back to the 2009 Gathering Nations Powwow. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Adrian Wall, artist, musician, awesome guy. So, Adrian, what'd you do this morning?
Got up, took a shower, and came and played at the Gathering Nations pit floor.
Beautiful. So tell me, how are you going green?
How am I going green? You know, I put those little surge protectors on all my electronic stuff, so every time I leave the room, I turn everything off, just so it's not, you know, sucking juice while I'm not using it.
So what do you have in the future here? I know you're a busy guy. You know, you do a lot of work, a lot of beautiful work. Check it out, adrianwall.com, correct?
That's right.
Check it out. Check out his work. It's beautiful. And don't you still owe me a piece?
I think I do.
So what do you have going on, you know, in the future?
Well, working on sculpture, of course, traveling a lot this summer, doing a lot of art shows, working on a few commissions, and trying to play as much music as possible in the meantime.
So where can people go to listen to your music?
Well, they can go to adrianwall.com or a MySpace, Adrian Wall, or MySpace Twin Rivers Music.
Adrian, thank you. You're awesome, always been,
So
and you always will be.
All right. You're a talented producer, man.
Thank you, man.
Glad to be your friend.
Good night.
My name is Adrian Wall. I live in Acoma, Pueblo, New Mexico with my wife Santana and my son Hunter. Acoma is a place that has been inhabited for centuries. With its big blue skies and beautiful mesas, this desert makes it a wonderful place to live. I am very honored to call Acoma home. Originally, I'm from Jemez, Pueblo, which is about 60 miles as the crow flies, but a good 2-hour car drive. We've lived in Acoma for over 10 years. We moved to Acoma from Albuquerque, which is 60 miles away, and I'm glad we did. I couldn't think of a better place for my son to be raised. The culture is strong in Acoma. There are 19 pueblos in New Mexico, and the culture is strong in all of them. I feel very fortunate for my son to be raised here. He has exposure to the language, dances, the prayers, the family, all the things that give us a sense of place, our connection to the earth. I come from a family of artists. My mother's a second-generation potter. My dad's a sculptor. When I was very young, I remember my mother would mix her clay on our kitchen table. She would mix the mud with the volcanic ash that she had dug by hand to make a warm, brown earthen clay. Before she would start working on her pottery, she would give us a ball of clay to play with. As she would form her pottery, we'd try to imitate her and experiment with our own designs. These are some of my earliest memories. I remember my first experience with stone. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. I went with my father to a sculpture studio he was working at up in Jemez Springs, a few miles north of the Pueblo, up in the mountains. I remember there were several people working out there and dust was flying everywhere. The sounds of the tools got me real excited. I'll never forget how I felt when I first saw the sculptures they were working on. I was so impressed and inspired. I went to the scrap pile and got myself a small piece of red stone, and then I went to the tool drawer and got myself a file, and then I set off to work. I think my father was happy that I was out of his hair for a while. And when I finished, I had what I thought was a perfect likeness of a bear head. Proudly, I went to show my father and the other sculptors that were there, and they were unimpressed. But the seed was planted, and I'll never forget that day. In 1989, I moved into an apartment in Albuquerque. As I was moving in my furniture, I was real excited to see my new neighbors were outside sculpting in stone in a makeshift studio. I moved into my apartment one day, and I was outside sculpting the next. I lived in this apartment for 2 years, and I learned everything I could from these artists. In 1992, I rented my own studio. With very little experience, I sought out my professional career as a sculptor. It was a very difficult time, but I remained committed to my work. I learned many lessons about business, lifestyle, technique, and myself. As I gained confidence, I sought out other sculptors for advice. And looking back, I don't think I'd still be sculpting if it wasn't for the encouragement and the support of these mentors. You know, these men and women who gave freely their knowledge of how to be a good artist as well as a good human being. My primary medium is stone. I love stone. I love the challenge of carving harder stones. I love the way stone looks when it's finished and polished. I love the way light plays on stone. I also like the fact that stone comes from the earth. The style in which I carve is born out of the Southwest. My main influences are Southwest sculptors. They are what I've seen as I was growing up, and they are what I imitated as I was learning to carve. I'm also inspired by what I've seen from other cultures in other countries, as well as my culture here. See, New Mexico is a beautiful place. The environment in which I live and work has a lot of influence on what my sculpture is about. Being a sculptor is hard work. It's labor intensive and requires standing long hours in extremely dusty conditions. Being a sculptor is also a very solitary occupation. Sometimes I see weeks go by before another person walks into my studio. I was once asked, what motivates me to get out to the studio and work every day? And my answer, other than the fact I have bills to pay, I couldn't see myself do anything else. There is such a sense of satisfaction I get when I see a sculpture come to fruition. I remember all the work that went into it, and I feel a real sense of pride. It also makes me feel good when another person can appreciate the piece. I've been an artist for as long as I can remember. I've always had this need to create and express myself through the arts. I'm very thankful that I can spend my days creating and working on things I love. I hope to continue to grow as an artist, and in the future, I plan to work on larger scale sculpture. My hope is that my sculpture will tell a story about what is happening now, for future generations to learn from and enjoy.